Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 2nd and tonight's movie is Curse of Aurore. There aren't too many found footage movies this year, so it was kind of surprising to come across one right away. Again, I choose these movies randomly. Curse of Aurore does seem a little bit generic just based on its description in the trailer. It's about these young filmmakers who go investigate something supernatural and get caught up in it themselves. That is a very standard found footage setup. That's also how you could start Butterfly Kisses, the lost footage of Leah Sullivan, and of course the Blair Witch Project. But even more important than what a movie is how it's done, and the execution made those last three movies incredible. In this movie, Aurore is the name of a young girl. The name kind of reminds me of Lenore from The Raven. Aurore was apparently murdered by her parents, and these three filmmakers are gonna go investigate it, and hijinks will ensue. I don't know what to expect from this movie. It could be a hidden gem, it could be terrible. I have no idea, so I'm gonna go check it out. My overall feelings about Curse of Aurore is that it is decent but derivative. I don't like the idea that everything has to be this new groundbreaking thing to be worth anything. And I will say that the movie wasn't executed poorly. It's okay, but it's also not really giving anything that isn't done better in other movies. I'm going to give Curse of Aurore a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, it's just not great. One retraction I will make is that when I say young filmmakers, I meant like college age, and these people are apparently a little bit older, like late 20s, early 30s, so that's not exactly the formula, but yeah, the rest of the formula is still there. One other thing that I didn't know is that the case of Aurore, the girl who got murdered by her parents, that is apparently a real thing that happened in Canada. I'm not really sure where I stand in terms of the ethic of making fictionalized, exaggerated versions of things that actually did happen and did affect people. I feel like this becomes even more questionable in the realm of found footage because the point is to make it feel as realistic as possible. I'm not really trying to make any grand statement about it, it's just something to think about. The three main characters are three filmmakers named Aaron, Kevin, and Lena. They're going to somewhere in Quebec to make a screenplay or an idea for a movie. It said that they had a movie that they finished recently, and they got a bunch of marketing people telling them that it could sell. I'm sure all marketing people would say that because they want to sell it. But they want to create a new movie, and they want to just springboard off the idea of this real-world death of a little girl named Aurore in the 20s. Lena apparently has a family home in that town or near the town where that happened, and things just feel off when they get there. One thing I will commend this movie for is that often in these types of movies, if there's one person behind the camera the whole time, they kind of forget to make that a real character, literally just the camera operator. That didn't really happen in this one, not only because they made sure to keep the camera operator part of the conversation, but they also had the camera be passed around among the three people the entire movie. There wasn't one designated camera operator the whole time. All the actors had screen time and all the characters were developed pretty well. Generally in found footage, I'm looking for creative new ways to use the medium to create horror. The Curse of Aurore is kind of lacking in that regard. There was one moment where I thought, okay, that was pretty creepy, and I haven't really seen that before, but for the most part, it was kind of by the book. I'm not going to be the person to say that the creators of this movie took a lot of inspiration from movies like The Last Exorcism or Butterfly Kisses or The Lost Footage of Leah Sullivan. I have no way of asserting that, but I can see the connections as someone who's seen all those movies myself. There really isn't all that much to talk about with The Curse of Aurore. If you like found footage, you're probably going to like this movie okay. If you're new to found footage, I have plenty of other movies I would recommend watching instead of this one. I mean, besides the classics, Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch, Cloverfield, there are also other more obscure ones like Hell House LLC, Found Footage 3D, Butterfly Kisses, Leah Sullivan. These are all movies that I feel have a lot more to them, to their identity than this one does. It is an okay movie. If you're looking for a great movie, I'd look elsewhere, but it's not bad. And with that, I want to go into a few spoilers. For the first 2/3 of the movie, any attempt at horror is very subtle to the point where you might not even notice it. There were a few hidden faces in the background that had to be pointed out to me by people in the movie later on. And there were also some things that I noticed as they were happening. For example, there is a crucifix on the wall and a scene where it seemingly just tilts on its own. It doesn't completely turn upside down, but it does tilt at a weird angle and stay there. And there was also a scene where they were in this church and the person using the camera looked at the priest and there was like a flicker. There's like a lot of like weird distortion, like interference in this movie. And one of the black things that appear, it kind of made it look like he had this big creepy Joker smile. The moment I was referring to earlier was that several times, like in the middle of the night, they'll see a bunch of people just gathering and walking to the house across the street. And there was another night where they went to check out something. And as they were leaving the house, they saw that group of people. And when the cameraman looks at them, every single one of these dozens of people, they turn and stare all at the same time. I liked that moment a lot because it's effective through how simple it is. Just the fact that they all stopped and turned as one. Some of the scares that could have been a lot more effective were dampened a little bit by the fact that they were very clearly telegraphed. Like, if you know what to look for, you could see them coming from a mile away. There was a whole thing where on the stairs going up to the second floor of the house, there's this really heavy latch door that like is supposed to keep the warmth down, and they talk about how heavy it is and how there needs to be something to hold it open. And I immediately thought, okay, there's going to be a scare where that slams shut and like hits somebody and kills them, or someone's going to get dragged up the stairs and then that thing's going to slam shut on its own. They won't be able to open it again. What ended up happening with that like door was even kind of underwhelming compared to what I was imagining. It just like closed and made a loud noise and did a jump scare. They have a conversation while smoking about like an entire cult town, which is rather Last Exorcism. And the moment they said that, things started to click and I realized, okay, this entire town is in on whatever's happening, and that was the case. In fact, the ending was very much like The Last Exorcism, where they're going to this like occultic ritual that's taking place in this town and everybody's in on it. One thing that isn't really good or bad, just I think unusual and kind of unnecessary, is that this is bookended as this paranormal YouTube personality making a video about it and finding this in a dark web mystery box, which sounds so illegal and so weird and so sketchy. I don't know if it's a real thing. I hope it's not. It probably is. And there were some weird details at the beginning, like how he got the thumb drive with all this footage on it a year ago, and he's only starting to look at it now. I thought there was going to be like a significance to that, but there really wasn't. The movie just ended, and then you cut back to that YouTuber, and it's like, wow, this is really scary. This is evidence of a murder. I'm going to turn this into the police. Be careful out there, and then the movie just ends. This didn't make the movie worse, but it also added absolutely nothing to it. Curse of Aurore is not a bad movie, but it's not exciting the way that some really good found footage movies are. Like, I got like really excited and happy when I saw Death of a Vlogger last year because it was really new and interesting and it did stuff I had never seen before. Curse of Aurore didn't do that, but I'm not going to demand that every movie do that in order for me to give it the time of day. This was okay. And I guess you can make of that however you want to. I'll see you tomorrow.